Hey everyone, Dan Furr here. Let's design a patch from scratch on the Rev2. So that's the patch we're going to be creating. It's really a nice ring modulated patch, and I don't know about you, but I'm a huge fan of ring modulation, so I've been using it a lot recently. So let's take a look at the settings. So to start off, we're just going to initialize our patch. Hit global, go off to parameter 25, and hit right. And we're going to start off with the oscillators. And so oscillator 1 is a saw and triangle at your stock C2, 0 C tune, shape mod at around 72 here. There we go. And no sub, noise at about 28. And oscillator sync is on. Then the second oscillator is going to be a pulse, also at your stock C2. Again, fine tune is going to be moved up here to 8 in this instance. Oscillator shape's going to be 36. Let's go with that. And mix will be 97. So bring the second oscillator in, 97. Here we go, and you'll get kind of something like this. And just to give it a bit of detune, we'll kind of add some more oscillator slop to it. Just about 14 or so, I think. There we go. So now we've got a little bit of goodness from our oscillators. Now we'll move on to the filter, is what I usually like to do next. So in the filter, we'll set it to a 2-pole filter, and the cutoff will be right at around 101. Just to soften it up a bit. Just something like that. We're going to have resonance at maxed out 127. This is going to allow the filter to kind of ever so slightly just make a bit more presence, but because we're not in 4-pole mode, it won't quite self-oscillate, so it'll be just a bit more presence when we want it. And then for our envelope amount, we're going to leave that at 0, and basically, the only thing we're going to change in the envelope here is the filter envelope here is the audio mod, and that's going to go up to about 78. And this is going to give us a bit of an FM characteristic on our filter, kind of, just to give us a bit more grit and color. Right, and without. Right, so it just gives us a little bit more harmonics, a little bit more presence and enjoyment to the filter. At around 78, I think, is a good value there. And that pretty much sums up our filter. Next up, we want to go to the amp envelope, just give us a little bit more dynamics to the overall characteristic of our sound. And we're going to have pan at 0, and envelope amount's going to be maxed out at 127, and we're going to have velocity around 52, just to give us a bit more presence when we play the keys. There we go. There we go, that's where we kind of want to be in and up at this point. Now we want to actually get into the real characteristics of the envelope, right? So our attack is going to be 12, and our delay is going to be nothing essentially. So attack 12, delay 0, decay is also going to be 0, sustain is going to be maxed out at 127, and release is at about 75 just to give us a bit more color, bit more release, bit more tone, right? Right at about 75 there. Perfect. There we go. So far we're sounding not really close to the original patch, but we're, believe it or not, almost quite done. Next up we have the LFOs, and there's only really 2 LFOs I'm using in this patch, and they're really quite simple. LFO 1 has a triangle wave set to the cutoff. There we go. And its frequency is about 9, and its amount is about 10, so it's really not that high. Frequency about 9, amount 10, just to give us a slight bit of wobble in the filter. just allows that audio mod that we set up before to be a little bit more colorful by moving the filter around ever so slightly and giving us a bit more tone, which is always lovely. And I don't have anything synced on this LFO. You can if you want, but it's so minimal it really doesn't matter. Then on to LFO2, we have a triangle wave set to the VCA release. So go a little bit, find it. VCA release, here we go. And again, I've got no sync on this one, but this one's a little bit more dramatic. So the frequency is at 67 here. And the amount is at 38. And that should just give us, again, a little bit more movement. So far, kind of a little bit bright. Really, again, not quite where we were at the beginning. So now the final thing I want to look at before the effects, which really takes this patch into where we know it can go, is the modulation matrix. And I've got two modulation sources going on. Modulation source 1 is just the mod wheel. So let's go source mod wheel. And then the destination is going to be oscillator slop. And amount just at around 18. Here we go. And this just gives us a little bit of movement to play with our mod wheel. Just to give us a bit more fun to play. And this can be as much or as little as you want it to be. Then modulation source 2. I have again using the mod wheel. This time going to a pan, so destination, pan spread, and amount at around 54, I find is a fun one for this one, and this again just makes the mod wheel a little bit more expressive. And that's pretty much the basis of our patch. The last thing we have to do is add the effects, the actual ring modulation itself. So go to our effects unit, find the ring mod, which is the third from the last, and we want to, the most important thing is make sure the key tracking is on, because that's going to allow the ring mod to actually track around the keyboard and give us basically note per note function, which is what we want. Otherwise, it's going to be atonal. Right, the ring mod is always ringing at the same rate, but as soon as we crank this knob, then we start to get an actual little bit of key tracking. So now we can hear that it's actually following the pitch of our keyboard, making it a much more expressive and enjoyable patch. And the last thing we really need to do is tune it and set the mix. So I have the mix at around 64, I find works pretty well. You can do this to taste. And then tuning, I found putting it at around 177 for the tuning sounded good for my taste, but you can play around with it. I also want to note that I had the glide setting on and set to around 56. And that's pretty much the basis of the patch. As you can see, it really comes to life with the ring mod. This is with, as opposed to. Still a nice patch, but when we add the ring mod, and I'm going to bring the mix down just a little bit here. Really gives it a lot more harmonics and grit that's just going to sound a little bit more wobbly and airy and present in a mix that I really quite love. So, hope you enjoy it. Hope it's a patch you use. If you create a sound with it, let me know, tag me in it. I'd love to see it. I'd love to see what you create with it. But as for now, have a good one, and I'll be back with more soon. Cheers.